Hey everyone, TB Shores back. I'm going to revisit this just a few more minutes because the Lord really wants me to stress the importance. He wants us to understand the significance of the eye and the use of it being in so many places. I'm going to start back with what we discussed earlier with this symbol of CERN. We can clearly see the 666 is displayed within this. We can clearly see the shape of the eye is displayed within this. As we see the shape of the eye within the underground subway system and how it is displayed throughout. And we're going to go to scripture here in a minute. Keep in mind these eyes are placed throughout, all around the subway system. Okay, then the thing, once we understand this eye is a big connection with something, we got to grasp that. It's the big connection with something we're going to talk about later. But we also have to see how it is all intertwined and connected. Remember, I showed you in the last video, this circle here represents the circular sun. And then we have the crescent moon, which is the Ak in occult. It is the occult symbol, the O and the C, the sun and the crescent moon, okay? The circular sun and the crescent moon, which were joined together, form the Ak. All right, then it goes on to talk about the occult means to eclipse. I want to show you something that I think wasn't really as clear as I would like for it to have been in the last video. When we see here the sun, the circular sun, and the crescent moon as the Ak of the occult, and it says to Ak means to occult means to eclipse. And I made reference to if we took this circle and saw it as the moon and as it was moving in over the sun, it would be an eclipse. And I just wanted to illustrate this, okay? Because I want to make it clear all the symbolism that is within this CERN symbol. We've got an eclipse. See how this circle can represent an eclipse? And then it would just cover it up. It's about the darkness overtaking the light. It's about covering up the light. It's about the darkness becoming dominant. Okay? Another thing I want to point out about the eye in this symbol is you see the word CERN? Okay, some of you may be familiar with CERN, some of you may not. But the thing I want to point out is how very subtly, but yet effectively, they have placed CERN within the eye. Okay? And what I'm going to show you later is how CERN is going to, for lack of a better way to express it at the moment, affect the spiritual eye. I had one of those nights where I could tell the Lord was showing me things through the night, but I couldn't remember anything when I woke up except the words, opening the spiritual eye. And the scripture I had been reading, the Lord had led me to look up scripture. So I would have a full understanding. It's about spiritual awareness, okay? And we see in Genesis 3, 5 through 7, it speaks of eyes shall be opened and you shall be as gods. This is in the beginning when the curse came. Okay, this is all about reversing the curse. And we are talking about, hold on a minute here. Bear with me. We are talking about scripture to better understand. See, when the curse came, it was Satan was tempting Eve in that he was saying, your eyes shall be opened and ye shall be as gods. So he was trying to convince her of the reasons why she should, at the same time trying to sway her into thinking that God's hiding something from you. Anyway, we see in 1 Timothy 2:14 reference, it says, it was pleasant to the eyes and a tree to be desired. The eyes of them both were opened. Wait a minute here. Oh, excuse me. This is all in Genesis. All these reference ideas here that I pulled out of what the scripture says is all in Genesis. I'm sorry. And I made a reference back to 1 Timothy 2:14. I'm sorry. Okay. Also, the Lord had me in Numbers 22:31. Then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way. So this is about opening the eyes to the spiritual realm. Okay? Numbers 24:2. And Balaam lifted up his eyes, and the Spirit of God came upon him. I'm sorry. The man whose eyes are open hath said, and then I made another reference, but having his eyes open. This is all within Numbers 24:2-14, and I just made note of the phrases within the scripture that's a clear indication of opening of our spiritual eyes. And then Numbers 24:15-17, the man whose eyes are open has said. Okay, it's talking about spiritual eyes being open and having his eyes open. So you go read these scriptures. Genesis 3:5-7, when Eve was tempted. I don't remember what 1 Timothy 2:14 says, but I'm sure it is helpful in understanding what I'm trying to say here. I wouldn't have wrote it down. And then Numbers 22:31, Numbers 24:2, Numbers 24:15-16. Do a Bible search on the word eyes or eye, and you'll see that the scriptures talk about, when in reference to the eyes being opened, it is about speaking of understanding spiritual things or being open to the spiritual realm. And that's what the Lord was trying to get me to understand when he had me to do this. And then that night, it was like he was showing me things all night long, but I couldn't remember. Right here I put it. May the 6th, 2015. I had a night of seeing things from the Lord, but not remembering. The word that I got as I was waking was opening the spiritual eye. Okay, so I got the scripture on the 5th of May, and I got that word from the Lord on the 6th of May, opening the spiritual eye. And that is connected to CERN. That's why you see this eye in the middle and CERN in the middle of it. Okay? It's about, see this open? See that? It's about opening the spiritual eye, but not in the way that we would like. Okay? And that's what we're going to get into a little bit later. But the reason the Lord is having me to dwell on this is he wants us to understand the importance of the eye as it is used by Satan, and the significance of it, and how it all ties in to what is going on with these end days. I know it may sound nuts to some of you, but I'm sure there are some of you who can clearly follow. I want to point back to this as well, where the Lord showed us that the eye is connected to the World Trade Center, which is Satan's seat. The World Trade Center complex in New York City is Satan's seat. And I'm going to point to something else out on that in a minute. It is connected to our dollar. We see the all-seeing eye on our dollar with a pyramid. It all goes back to some things that are connected with ancient Egypt, and this takes us back there, okay? Shiva, we know that Shiva is the statue of a god that sits outside of the CERN facility. It's all connected to the eye and what they want to do and how it all goes back to the eye, okay? And then with Shiva, we see the connection with CERN and how all of it goes back to the eye. But I want to point out something right here, right quick. This is some more work the Lord had me to do. Let me get rid of this one notebook. And we talked about this in the last video, about the subway and the Messianic eye and all that. And the 300 eyes that are throughout, and how there are only 300 people were identified from the remains of World Trade Center. All this stuff about the eye is very important in understanding what I have yet to show you. And it's all connected with what Satan has in mind, with the delusion, and with what's to come. So the thing I want to show you right here, we're going to go back to this for a moment. I'm sorry I've got this glare. I'm trying to eliminate it. Right here, this is a Messianic tile floor. In the very center right there is an eye. You can't see it well in this picture, but where the description was wrote up, you have the eye, you have New York City beneath the eye, and then you have the world. See this? The world out from it. So this is clearly, to me, this clearly says it is New York City is Satan's seat, and from there he sees the whole world, okay? Satan's seat is in the center. Okay, the thing I want to point out about that Messianic floor is this right here. It is a centerpiece in this Oculus display in the subway. It is an elliptical glass and stone Messianic floor. Glass and stone Messianic floor. Glass and stone floor. I want you to understand that, okay? Now, we talked about before in the other videos, we talked about Manhattan being Satan's seat and how the Bronx, Brooklyn, I can't think, what's the others that surround, the other four were Satan's strongholds, which represented Satan's version of the four beasts because they were his strongholds. Okay? We're back to this scripture again with this floor, okay? And it says, Revelations 4:6. And before the throne, there was a sea of glass. Before the throne, there was a sea of glass. And we just learned that this elliptical glass display is a glass and stone Messianic floor. A sea of glass like unto crystal. And in the midst of the throne, which is the seat, and round about the throne were four beasts, four strongholds. Brooklyn, the Bronx, and the other two escape me at the moment, that surround Manhattan. Were four beasts full of eyes. Full of eyes. So this subway system goes throughout, okay, different places in New York City. So we see the eyes are throughout the strongholds, just as it says, four beasts full of eyes. We have Satan's four strongholds full of eyes right here, okay? And we also have the glass floor. Okay, do you understand what Satan is trying to do? He is trying to set himself up as God so that when this delusion comes, he can take what he has set up that mimics the Bible and try to use it to convince people that the scripture is talking about him. Okay? I'm going to cut this off right here and I'll be back later. Love you. Bye-bye.